Hi everybody, Pen here with Yogacises. So I have Alyx and Sunny here today. They're going to talk about.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming on. This is
We're
a
so excited. We're so happy to be here.
yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks. This is a topic that people don't usually talk about, and it's about hormones and how for women and how it could impact their business during their cycle and something like that, right? So I'll let them introduce themselves and then a little bit about them and then go on from there.
Yeah, so I'm Alyx Coble Frakes. I am a holistic health and wellness coach, and I wasn't planning on doing this work. This work kind of came to me, but the work that I focus on mainly is working with people regain a loving and trusting relationship with their body after years of being steeped in diet culture. So that's the work that I do outside of this project. What about you, Sunny?
So my name is Sunny Sink, and I am a certified health and life coach. I work and in providing miscarriage support for women who have a trouble reconnecting to their family, their friends, and their community. And I'm so happy to be on with you guys as well.
So how did this all started? Whose idea was it and how did it just start?
So actually I was meditating and I had this idea that the idea came to me that I should sync up my business building activities with my menstrual cycle, because I was recognizing that there seemed to be different parts of the month where I had more energy versus less energy, and it seemed kind of there were some natural connections between different business building activities. You know, there are some things that we do in our business that take a lot of extroverted outward energy to connect with people versus some things that take more quiet reflection. And so I was just kind of thinking, oh, okay, like there are these cycles that go on in my body because I've been learning more and more about that. And then there seems to be this basket of activities for the business that could kind of match up better. And so I thought, great, I'm sure that this already exists. Let me go buy it. I'll go buy an agenda that shows me how to sync up my business building activities with my menstrual cycle. And then I couldn't find it. I looked on Amazon, on Google, I looked on different niche pages, and I couldn't find it anywhere. And so I thought, oh, well, then I guess maybe I should just make it. And I had no intention of making a product. People asked, I don't know about you, Pam, but for me, people would ask me about, as a coach, like, what are your other streams? What are the other ways you're going to connect with your audience? And I thought, I don't know, I'm just a coach. Like, that's what I do. I didn't think about myself as having a product of any sort. But then the call came knocking and I decided to answer it. And then I got Sunny involved because Sunny has a really fantastic experience with fertility, knowing the cycles. She was already doing a lot of that work. And so it felt really natural to reach out to her and see if she wanted to jump on board.
Yeah, and so I had been tracking and monitoring my cycles and a lot of self-care tasks, some business tasks as well, but a lot of my monitoring and a lot of my teaching for my clients has been on like self-care for certain types of our cycle and how to honor certain parts of our cycle. And so when Alyx shared her idea with me, I was 100% on board. This is something that is very near and dear to my heart, and I think it's something we all need to talk about more.
Yeah, definitely agree that it does need to be talked about more. So in terms of the product, so how does it what are the different categories within the product, and is it like a gadget or like a physical device, or is it like a planner type of thing, or what?
Yeah, so right now we're looking at stage one is going to be a physical planner. I love my planner. I take it everywhere, and I know a lot of women use, like, we're so in the digital space, but a lot of times it's nice to have something that's hard copy that can go with you, that you can write in. And so that's what stage 1 will be. And then eventually there will also be an application, whether that means partnering with something that already exists or creating something new. I've tried some tracking apps and they're great, but they can be a little bit glitchy and clunky. So we may either partner with something that already exists or go rogue. Who knows? We'll see.
It's funny that you said about those different apps. It cannot be 100% accurate, because I have my Fitbit, and I think recently they had this where you kind of just type in your last menstrual cycle, and then it will just tell you, like, it predicts when it's going to be on again or when it's happening. And it was like, this is so off, because I haven't updated it, and then it's because I didn't update it, it's like completely not accurate.
And I think one of the goals too is the digital space is fantastic, but we also kind of want to create a community where people are talking in real life about these things, because both Sunny and I have had this experience where we're talking to people about the idea and women are like, oh my God, that makes sense. Like, even like very educated, very like progressive women who have no idea that they're like about the cycles, or they're like, oh, that makes sense. Like, that's why I always get into this problem during this week of the month, but like not really knowing that it was connected to the cycle, because it's just something we don't talk about. And women make up over 51% of the planet. So a vast majority of the planet has a period, but we still don't talk about it. And like, we don't have the education about it. And it's mind-boggling to me.
And also I've noticed that with the cycles, if you're around a bunch of women, they tend to have like similar cycle, the time period, and also with the moon cycle and everything has all affect like the environment, and also what you eat, like diet, all affects everything.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Our cycles are changed, and they're modified by, you know, the light sources we use, how often we stay outdoors, what types of food we eat. All of those impact our cycles in some form or another.
All right, so you said the first phase is the planner. So what's the next phase beyond the planner?
So partly what, you know, in business, what we're looking at is we're going to let the customers speak to us and let us know where the needs are, right? We want to listen to what the demand is, but partly, so we're starting off with women in business. There may be other types of journals or agendas that are created in the future for different types of employment segments. So maybe teachers or nurses, and getting some people on board to help us design those and like what those tasks are. Sunny and I both have businesses, so that was a pretty easy first step for us to think, okay, like what are some of those business building activities that we are doing, and how can that fit into this product? And, you know, long term, who knows, workshops, retreats for women to reconnect with their cycle. I mean, there's so much brilliant of this revival work that's going on worldwide. So really, who knows? We're just kind of enjoying the ride right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of different businesses, during what time of the month for women is their most productive time frame?
Well, I view all parts of our cycle as productive. They're productive in different ways. But when you're talking about like the kind of the masculine doing and the getting stuff done, I'd say that's the follicular phase. But I think that some of the other phases, when we need to reflect and we need to go inside, and maybe we need to give ourselves a little more self-care and get a little bit less of the busy work done, I think those are just as productive. And when we honor them, we end up achieving so much more in our cycle.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Sunny. I'm like, all of them, the entire month. But I think what happens, the trap that people fall into, and that's kind of the way that we're setting up this product. Is I used to do my planning during the follicular phase. So that's what Sunny was talking about, right? So it's like, it's where you have an uptick in energy, which we tend to think in our culture, if you're busy, you are of value, right? So I'm like, oh man, I have more energy right now. I'm going to plan everything, right? I'm going to get really excited. I'm going to plan. But how we know, like, the natural rotation, like if I'm going to plan something, normally I'm not going to plan it for this week. I'm going to plan it for a couple weeks out. Right? That's just kind of the natural rhythm of things. And so when you plan in that way, so follicular phase, Alyx would plan like all of the tasks. I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're going to do all the things. Because I'm high energy person during the follicular phase. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go this place. I'm going to talk to this person. Oh my gosh, it's going to be awesome. Okay, fast forward to 2 to 3 weeks where I have to do all of these things that I planned. And now I'm in the luteal phase. And then I don't want to do any of those external outward energetic tasks. And then I feel bad and I feel guilty and I feel full of shame. Oh my gosh, I planned all these things. I don't want to do any of it. I'm a horrible person. Why don't I want to go do all the stuff that I planned? Right? And then we know as coaches, guilt and shame really stress hormones. They do bad things to the adrenal glands, to the body. And so it doesn't really work to plan in that way. So what we're focusing on is having people plan more during the luteal phase when they are a lower, more reflective energy. And then by the time those events come about, they'll probably be in the follicular phase when they have the more external outward energy. And so just kind of flipping it on its head in that way really makes you feel good because you're listening to your body, you're in that rhythm, and you're not fighting against yourself. So it kind of releases the guilt and shame and then helps you feel more productive in each piece of the month.
That's very interesting. Can you explain the different phases and the time when those occur and the differences?
Yeah, so I would love Sunny to talk on that. And we also want to put the disclaimer out there that we know that there are lots of women's bodies that work on a different clock. So we'll kind of speak in generalities, and to know that all bodies are beautiful. And if someone's body isn't fitting into this mold, there's no judgment or shame about that either. So we're just going to kind of talk about high level, what people can more or less expect.
Great. Yeah, I love that you made that disclaimer. Thank you so much, Alyx. So there's actually 4 phases of our cycle. And the 4 phases are the menstrual phase, the phase where we're bleeding. The next phase is the follicular phase that Alyx was talking about, where you have the high energy, and it's right before our ovulation phase. The 3rd phase is ovulation, and that's just a couple of days, and that's when our body releases the egg. And then the very last phase is the luteal phase, and this is when, so in the first phase, the follicular phase, your estrogen is raising to get your ovary to release an egg. And in the last phase, your estrogen is lowering and your progesterone is raising. And this is to support a pregnancy if you have one. And so these 2 very significant shifts in hormones make for different mood swings. We all know that, right? Like, we see it in ourselves that it makes for mood swings. It makes for lower or higher energy. And so in the menstrual phase, we are the very most connected to our intuition. We're very reflective. We're very able to connect with that which is greater to us. Whereas in the luteal phase, we're just kind of letting go, and we're starting to, move into the phase where we're more reflective. So we're going from high energy to more reflective, and so it kind of cycles like that every single month.
Thank you for explaining.
One really quick important distinction I would love to point out is that the menstrual cycle is actually the beginning of the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like the first day of your period is day 1 of the new cycle, more or less. And it's so funny because I always thought of it as the end of the cycle, right? Because I'm like, oh yeah, we're going to the end, but really it's the beginning. So menstruation and the follicular phase kind of can be a little bit paired. So those, like, when you get your period, a lot of times, because we talk about PMS, like pre-menstrual cycle, is when all the angry energy or the judgment can come up. But then you may notice that during your period is when you start to see the uptick of energy again. It's really the beginning, and it's when the hormones start building up. But even that in itself is something I had completely flipped on its head because of the way we talk about menstruation in our culture. So I don't know about you. Did you think about that, like menstruation being the start versus the end of the cycle? I don't know.
Well, I started trying to conceive like 5-6 years ago, and I learned a lot about the menstrual cycle at that time. And so for a long time, I've known that the first day of the period was day one of the cycle.
In the past, did you think that it was the end?
I don't think I really even thought about it at all before that.
Someone pointed out to me, because like if you're on hormonal birth control, in a pill pack, period is the end of the end of the pack. And so I think that's probably why I always just thought, oh, it's like the end of this thing rather than the beginning.
Makes sense. Yeah.
My next question. So what happens, how would you predict or figure out using the calendar if somebody's cycle is irregular and it's unpredictable when they're going to start their next period or when they're ovulating? And
well, I'd say within a month or so, they're going to know that it's unpredictable. If they're already tracking, they probably already know. For a lot of women, they get their period once a month. And so usually women who get it roughly once a month consider themselves regular, whereas those who know that they skip a month know that they're irregular. So I think most women have a really good idea. But definitely after a month or two of tracking, they'll know.
And we're also setting it up so that if women are irregular, that they can use the moon cycle. And still we have like a way to plan which business building activities, and then they can just use that for until their body starts to give them those clues at where their own period lives naturally. And if not, also providing some resources to get in touch with someone who may work on hormonal health, holistic hormonal health. If that's something that, if they're like, realize, man, I really don't have a period anymore, which means I'm not ovulating, I want some help around this. So we're going to have some of those supportive resources as well.
That leads me to my next question in terms of like intervention. What do you do once you get this down and be able to figure out the pattern of when you're being productive, and how could you go on to the next step of intervention?
Do you mean like someone reaching out to a professional? I'm not sure what you mean about intervention.
In terms of how to execute, like how to get their plans moving along and them taking actions and completing their goals. And
so we are actually going to be teaching them how to schedule their activities into their calendar based on their cycle. And the first month might be a little bit of a guess, but I'd say that within 3 months of really sitting down and making those tasks and monitoring their cycle and seeing what's going on, really tuning into how they feel when they complete each task and really tuning into their energy levels at each part of the month, I'd say within 3 months, a woman is going to have a really good idea as to what's best for her specific cycle, and really be able to move forward powerfully and really empowered in terms of building those business tasks based on her menstrual cycle. And we believe that she's going to be able to see revenue increases and better productivity and just overall feeling better throughout her cycle.
And I think another piece of that, like we already mentioned, would be the community aspect. So we're going to have a community space, and someone then could reach out and say, guys, like I'm putting this task here and it's not working. Like, does anyone have a tweak? Does anyone have a place that they would put it in their cycle instead, or they've seen some support? And it's really about having that open conversation, because for so long we've been kind of like, periods are weird. Like women will like, do you have a tampon? Like really quiet and like hush hush, because there's all this like weirdness and awkwardness. So part of it is like, again, over half the planet has a period in some form, like getting it out into the light and being able to have those conversations. And so part of that intervention will be being able to have a community of other women where we're all talking about our periods and how it relates to our business, and being able to get that support around those activities.
Right, and not just the support of them doing the same thing, make them feel comfortable, but also the accountability part, like reminds them, okay, I got to keep track, and I have to basically, share with others so I won't forget that I have to do the next step.
Yes.
Yeah, a big piece for me is that when we look at the business world, it's really kind of been built around men's bodies, right? Around like a more linear progression of the month. And for so long, for women to be able to compete in this world that was created for more of the masculine energy, we kind of have to like shut it down, shove down, pretend like our bodies don't have a different rhythm. Oh no, it's fine. I can show up here. You know, even like all the tampon commercials, they're like, doesn't pretend, it's like pretend like you don't even have a period today. You'll use this period product and you just completely ignore the fact that you're bleeding right now, right? It's just like, my body is just different. And I think that's part of the movement we want to embody is empowering women. Our bodies are different. That's okay. It doesn't make them wrong or bad, but we can change the way we're doing business to up level and to empower the way that our bodies work rather than continuing to pretend, oh, my body is exactly the same as that kind of body. Right? So it's like, it is different, and that's beautiful. And we need both the masculine and the feminine to be in harmony, which we can see on the planet right now. We're not in harmony because we are really ignoring the feminine across the board.
Right. So great that you guys are bringing awareness and getting people to be more in tune, women in tune with their bodies and get to know themselves rather than just, just do whatever they do and not pay attention to these details. This reminds me, it's a little random, but in certain places, like especially during testing time in schools, just to make sure that they're able to focus and not worry about their menstrual cycle. These people, women actually take a pill just to prolong, like just almost like kind of stop the cycle so that they can do well on the exam, and that can really impact their body negatively, and it's not good.
I remember when I was in school, I would have friends who they would do that, right? They would just like start their next pill pack early so that they wouldn't like have any bleeding, even though we know that the bleeding caused by menstrual, like the pills is fake. But it was just, it's like a big, huge experiment that we're asking women to take on their bodies by doing all these weird techniques, having hormones that may not be good for us. And so we really kind of want to help shift that paradigm. And there are a lot of great people working in this space, so we're excited to throw our hat in the ring because it's time, past time, for us to have this kind of empowerment for women.
It's a great movement. And so how do people, if they want to try this out, how can they move forward with this? In terms of how can they sign up and give this a try, and the pricing and everything?
Well, right now we're just in a beta testing phase. And so we are offering for a very limited time, just the next couple of days, we're still offering for free signups to help us test out our product. And so we'll be walking these beta testers, these women, through our procedures, our processes. We'll be there to support them every step along the way as they are putting their business tasks into their calendar. And we'll be in testing phase for 3 months for that. We will have the agenda out hopefully by the end of the year. That's our goal.
October. We'll have the first round 1 by October. We're going to be pretty ambitious with it. And then, we want 1 million people in the next 5 years, Pam, to use this product.
Yeah.
It's an amazing goal. I love it.
Yeah.
You guys can do it.
Thanks. Yeah, and we'll provide you a link for people who want to sign up in the next few days.
Okay, and then I'll upload this in a couple of days because I also have previous interviews that I haven't uploaded yet. And then when I do that, I'll put it in the description. So if anybody wants to give it a try, they can use your link.
And then we can also create a waiting list. So if the people who missed the beta, they can be on a list to be updated for when the product is ready for purchase.
Absolutely.
That's exciting. I can't wait. All right. Anything else you two want to add?
I'm I'm just excited. I know, like I said, that there are so many of these resources. If you want to get involved, there are people doing podcasts about menstruation. There are more and more products and services that are existing. So I know that the time is right for us to really kind of be emboldened and empowered to step fully into our female bodies. And I also, to be clear, this includes anyone who identifies as female, right? So anyone who identifies as female, we're really just kind of trying to embrace this space and really be okay with knowing that our bodies work a little bit differently and celebrating that rather than punishing ourselves for it.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Alyx. And I definitely wanted to thank you for having us on and for inviting us onto your podcast to talk about our product. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate it as well. So I will get this up and running, and then I'll share it with everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you to all the viewers as well. We appreciate you.
Jump on the movement, you guys. We need a lot of people, so let's do this. Woo!
All right. Okay, let me just stop the recording.